Thank you very much, John, and yeah, thank you for having me here. As John said, I have stepped in at last minute, so bear with me. I'll do my best. Yeah, I'm fortunate that Karen couldn't join us today, and I know she's disappointed not to be here. But yeah, I'll do my best. So, who are we? Who are Sustrans? We're a UK-wide charity, and we're all about making it easier for walking, wheeling, and cycling, and not just for leisure. So we see these as genuine modes of transport for everybody, and they have wide-reaching benefits. And why do we think this matters? Well, on the slide there, you see the National Transport Strategy vision and priorities from Transport Scotland. And I could cover how walking, wheeling and cycling could help achieve them all. And the presentation that John just gave there from Gillian touched on the health and wellbeing benefits. But for the sake of time today, I'll focus on the top two, reducing inequalities and helping take climate action. So we know that we need to act now to halt climate change, and we're really pleased to hear of the commitments being made in the North East to reduce carbon emissions. And our current transport system is a problem. Transport is the largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the UK, and private vehicle use, especially car use, make up the bulk of those emissions. And if the UK is to meet its own legal obligations to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we rapidly need to decarbonise transport. Modelling suggests we need to reduce private vehicle use by up to 60% by 2030 if we're to meet those climate change targets. And this will require radical and rapid change in our policy. And yeah, whilst electric vehicles do have a role to play, they're not the perfect solution. They still require energy, they emit dangerous particles, and they don't have the same wide-reaching benefits that other modes of transport can bring. So they still promote that sedentary lifestyle, and they don't reduce the congestion that we see on our streets. So I wanted to touch on inequalities as well, because quite simply our transport system isn't working for everyone at the moment. Arguably, driving is still the easiest option for getting around, but yet nearly 50% of households in the most deprived areas don't have access to a car. Being unable to travel safely and affordably can prevent people accessing services, reduce quality of life, and lead to social isolation. And this can increase inequalities linked to income, such as health inequalities as well. And the situation is more complex with people on low incomes in rural areas. People in rural areas need to drive more frequently than those in urban areas, which brings on the issue of forced car ownership. So it's particularly pronounced in rural areas where lack of public transport means that people can be forced into running a car, even though this puts a lot of pressure on their budgets and makes life more difficult. And the last point there was a piece of research that Sustrans recently undertook, showing that shockingly, children on foot and on bike are more than 3 times as likely to be involved in a collision with a vehicle in the 20 most deprived areas of Scotland, as opposed to the 20% least deprived areas. And this really shines a light on a double injustice being given to Scotland's poorest communities. Firstly, communities are locked out of the opportunities through transport poverty, but then secondly, children in those communities are at a much higher risk of death or injury whilst they're out walking, wheeling or cycling. And many more inequalities exist in our current transport system. Through our Bike Life programme, which is the UK's largest assessment of cycling in towns and cities, we found that 5 adult demographic groups cycle less than their equivalent groups. So those are listed on the screen there. And we found out that large proportions of these people would like to cycle more. And you can find out about our Bike Life programme through our website. and we're really pleased to say that Aberdeen City Council has joined the programme this year, and we'll be launching a specific Aberdeen report in the near future, so look out for that one. But what can we do? So on the screen there, you'll see the Transport Scotland Sustainable Travel Hierarchy diagram. And Transport Scotland state that overarching all policies, really to address the challenges and achieve those priorities that I showed you before, we need to embed the sustainable travel hierarchy in all our transport decision making. We should all be thinking about these priorities in our decision making, starting from the top. And changes are needed to make these other modes of transport easier and safer and more attractive than driving. And obviously these changes will be even more challenging in light of the COVID-19 pandemic due to current reductions of capacity on public transport, for example. But it's certain, however, that we just simply cannot return to the pre-2020 levels of car use, and worse still, we can't have increased private car use. So I'm going to talk through a couple of pieces of work that we're doing in the North East in partnership with both councils, Sustrans and the schools as well. So this slide here shows a Spaces for People project. So Spaces for People is our temporary infrastructure grant funding programme, offering support and funding to help councils make it safer and easier for people to walk, wheel and cycle for essential journeys and exercise in the pandemic. So I'm pleased to say we awarded Aberdeenshire Council over £300,000 for their Spaces for People proposals, which included this one here. So businesses like Molly's Cafe and Bar in Stonehaven were able to safely resume business thanks to the extra pavement space that allowed them to serve customers outside. And we've also seen remarkable changes in Aberdeen City thanks to this funding as well. So we awarded 1.7 million to the City Council. And the photo on the left shows a section of Union Street between Bridge Street and Market Street, which has been closed to vehicles since June, which created safe space to walk, cycle and wheel for everyone with the addition of green infrastructure and resting points. Now, there was a lot of monitoring undertaken, as Alan touched upon, and across the survey period, this closed section of the street saw more than twice the pedestrian levels of any other section of Union Street. And of particular note, both Market Street and Union Street have both experienced very significant improvements in air quality, with Union Street seeing an average reduction of 39% of NO2 levels. And the other image there is the closure on School Hill, which saw the creation of safe space for people with the addition of planters and park lists used to increase the feeling of being welcomed and people being prioritised in the space. The parklets have been very well used. You can see somebody sitting on it just there in the image, and provide a place to rest whilst they're in the city centre, especially important for people with disabilities or our elderly population. Now, a growing body of evidence suggests that well-planned reduction of road space for private cars doesn't add to congestion. Reallocation of road space, it doesn't simply shift traffic from one place to another, but it leads to an overall reduction in the number of motor vehicles on the road. Contrary to assumptions, car drivers adapt to the changes in the road conditions in many different ways, and often that's too difficult for traffic modelling to predict. So people change modes of travel, they choose alternative destinations, they change the frequency of the journey, they consolidate trips, they share journeys, or they simply didn't make the journey at all. So yeah, I'd encourage you to consider road space reallocation. Now, our iBike programme has been running for a number of years in both the Shire and the City, and we partner with the councils on this programme. Our office has worked to provide a programme of classroom and outdoor sessions to help the children gain the skills and reduce barriers to them walking, wheeling and cycling to school. Time and time again, research shows us that physical activity is important in the health and well-being and development of our children and young people. And walking to school is a very easy, convenient, accessible, affordable way to help people get that exercise. So I'd like to finish off by saying it's now, the time is now. We urgently need to reduce car use if we're going to respond to the climate crisis. Through our Bike Life programme, across all the cities that partook in our last round, we found that cycling takes 270,000 cars off the road every single day, but yet less than 6% of people cycle on a daily basis. And I believe the levels of cycling in the northeast are even lower than this. So imagine what this would look like with the Dutch or Copenhagen levels of cycling in our cities, where they can reach over 40% of urban journeys by bike. And as we emerge from the pandemic, we have a unique opportunity to make positive change. Living and working habits have changed, and recent statistics show that just after lockdown, walking, wheeling and cycling to school reached its highest ever level in the last decade. By getting more people to walk, wheel or cycle on a daily basis will help us tackle those inequalities and the climate crisis. It will allow us to make a green recovery, an economic recovery from COVID, and one that benefits everyone in Scotland. But this change isn't easy. We urgently need significant investment in sustainable transport, alongside large reductions in road funding. Additional traffic restraint measures in cities and towns to reduce car use are also likely to be important, but also controversial and challenging. Ambitious leadership for radical change is needed. And I'd just like to say we're here to support you, and we can help make that case for change. And I point you towards our website, where you can find more information, and our social media channels as well. But of course, just get in touch with myself or our director, Karen, if you'd like more specific advice. And yeah, we're here to help. So thank you.